Hello everyone, I'm Geek Freak and welcome to the video. Before you guys watch this video, please go and watch part 1. Part 1 is where I discuss my thoughts on Avatar The Last Airbender Season 4. You know, my thoughts, ideas, that sort of thing. Part 1 is about the Season 4 that was never made. The creators of Avatar The Last Airbender was actually considering making a Season 4, but instead they decided to concentrate on that shitty live action movie. But on Twitter, they did say that they wanted to make a Season 4. So again, part 1 is where I discuss or give my thoughts on what they could do in a Season 4. So please, go and check out part 1 first, and then come back and watch this video. So with that said and done, let's resume with the video. So let's start with the story. This story takes place right after Smoke and Shadow. Before I get started, I just want to say this. This is a rough graph of what could happen. This isn't official, it's just a fan-made script, it's just a rough graph. And with that said and done, let's resume with the video. It's a nice sunny day in the Fire Nation, and in the Fire Nation Palace Garden, Zuko is spending time with his sister Ki, his mother Urza, and his stepfather Norin. Norin and Urza are sitting on a bench watching Ki and Zuko spending time with each other. Now they could be doing anything, playing ball, tag, looking at the flowers, etc, etc. You guys know what I'm talking about. And while Zuko and Ki is playing, Urza looks from afar, watching Ki and Zuko, and she's smiling that both of her kids are having a good time. And while Zuko and Ki was playing, Urza is also reminded of her days in the palace, when she was younger, watching Azula and Zuko also playing games, playing tag, playing ball, looking at the flowers, etc, etc. And then we cut back to the present, with Urza with a few tears in her eyes, remembering the times she had with Azula and Zuko when they was kids. And it's obvious that Urza misses Azula. Anyways, as this is all going on, a shadowy figure in the bushes, or the trees, is watching from afar. Now at this point, we don't know who this shadowy figure is, but whoever this character is, he's doing reconnaissance on Zuko and Ki. And this shadowy figure is watching Zuko and Ki. And as he's watching them, Ki decides to show off her firebending to Zuko and her parents. She shouts to Zuko and her parents, "Hey mom, dad, Zuko, look what I can do." And she fires some firebending at a wall. And as she's doing this, Zuko, Norin and Urza is shocked by this. And when Ki stops, Zuko goes up to her and asks, "When did you start to learn firebending?" And Ki says, "I watched you practicing while you was in our village. So I tried to mimic you, and the first time I did firebending was when me and the others was being held captive by the scary ladies." And when Ki means scary ladies, she means the hooded figures that kidnapped her and the other children. And she also told Zuko that it was the way that she got out of that dungeon in Smoke and Shadow. Anyways, Ki shows pride in her firebending. Zuko is impressed. Norin is surprised, as well as Urza. And from afar, Iron sees this. He's also surprised by this, and he says to Zuko and the others, "This calls for a celebration meal. Let's go inside and have a big celebration lunch." And so everybody goes inside the palace, and the shadowy figure who's been spying on them leaves the area with the bushes rustling. Zuko turns back, thinking he heard something coming from the bushes, but he doesn't see anything and carries on walking inside the palace. And sometime later, everybody is sitting at the table with lots of luxurious food, and everybody's there. Urza, Norin, Ki, Zuko, and even Uncle Iron. Everybody pulls up to the table and starts to dig in. And a quarter in to the meal, Zuko looks at everybody's faces and sees that they're all having a good time, smiling and laughing, etc, etc. And then Zuko says this, "It's so nice to have the whole family together like this." And then Urza quietly looks up, looks at an empty seat in the corner of the table, and she says, "Not all of the family is here." And everybody goes silent. And yes, Urza is talking about Azula, which Urza herself acknowledges that she does miss Azula. And to her, it doesn't feel like a family unless Azula is there. And so, Urza puts down her bowl, stands up, and says, "I'm not feeling hungry, I'm just gonna go for a walk." And so, Urza leaves the dining room, and Zuko says, "Me and my big mouth." On the other side of the table, Ki doesn't understand what's going on and continues to eat. Uncle Iron sighs, and Norin says, "It really pains me to see her in this state. I really wish I could do something to help her." And Iron talks back to him, saying, "There is only one thing that will make Urza happy, and that is having her whole family with her." Ki puts down her bowl and tells Norin that she's finished and she wants to go and play outside in the garden. Norin says that's fine, and Suki comes up to them and says, "I'll keep an eye on her while you guys finish up." Suki and Ki head to the garden, and Iron, Norin, and Zuko continue their talk. Now, I'm not going to go into details, but Iron talks about how Ozai was very cruel and very manipulative to Zuko and Azula, and Iron saw this himself. And Iron goes on saying that Zuko and Azula never really had a good father figure in their lives. And yes, sure, Iron was there for Zuko, but Iron wasn't there for Azula, which, if you ask me, is kind of messed up. But saying that, Urza and Iron gave Zuko lots of attention because Ozai was spending a lot of time with Azula, which, as we all know, wasn't very positive on Azula. Azula was moulded by Ozai, and Ozai is the reason why Azula turned out the way she is. So, in this section, Iron talks about how Ozai wasn't a good father, and he's the reason Azula turned out the way she did, and how he banished Zuko, etc, etc. So basically, Iron was talking about that. And then, we cut back to Urza, who is walking down the halls of the palace. While looking down and looking depressed, she stops walking and looks to her left, right in front of Azula's old room. She walks towards the door, opens it, and she has a flashback of the night she left, when she went to Azula and kissed her on the cheek, saying her goodbyes to her while Azula slept. And then we cut back to present day. Urza walks over to Azula's table dresser, and Urza spots a comb, and this comb was very beautiful. It was all white with the picture of a rose on it. Urza recognized this comb, and Urza has a flashback of the time where she brought Azula this comb. Maybe around the age of like 5 or 6, when Azula was a kid. Anyways, Urza gave this comb to Azula as a present, and Azula says that she really loved it and thought it was pretty. And then we cut to another flashback when Urza was combing Azula's hair when she was little, and she was also reminiscing of the good times Urza shared with Azula and Zuko when they was kids. And in present time, Urza walks over to Azula's bed and sits on it while Urza has the comb in her hands, still reminiscing of the good times she shared with her children. And then we cut back to the comb in present day, and it's at this point where Urza is crying, and tears are falling on this comb. And it's at this point where Urza is slightly crying. And then we cut back to the door where Urza came through, and behind that door is Zuko. Zuko is hiding, but he can also see what Urza is doing. And it's at this point that Zuko knows that his mother's sad and really wants to see Azula. And it's also at this point where Zuko makes a decision. Later that night, while everybody was in bed, Zuko is on his way outside, and then he comes across Zuki, and Zuki asks Zuko what he's doing at this time of night. And Zuko responds to Zuki that he's gonna go and find Azula. And Zuki objects to this because Zuki believes that Azula is very dangerous and warns him not to go. And Zuko says, "It's okay, Azula won't do anything to me. I know that for a fact." And Zuki objects again and says, "Well, if that's the case, let me come with you for protection." And Zuko objects again and says that Azula won't hurt him. It's not in her plan to hurt me. Zuko orders Zuki to go and guard Urza and her family, and he says that he'll be back very soon. Zuko walks off and he goes looking for Azula. And Zuko has been looking for Azula for an hour, looking all over the palace and even looking into the secret passageways Azula used in Smoke and Shadow. But Zuko comes out empty-handed. And just about when he was about to give up, Zuko spots a shadowy figure on top of the palace roof. Zuko sneaks up on this individual, and when he gets on top of the palace roof and can see the individual more clearly, Zuko recognizes the shape as one of the Kurakage, the same Kurakage that kidnapped the children in Smoke and Shadow. And with a pause and a deep breath and letting it out, a voice comes from the Kurakage and says, "What are you doing out so late, Zuzu? It's past midnight," as she's staring afar in the opposite direction. And Zuko responds, "I thought it might be you, Azula. I've been looking all over for you." And Azula responds, "Oh, have you finally decided to follow my advice of being a ruthless ruler, just like our father Ozai?" And Zuko says, "No, I haven't come here to talk about that." And Azula says, "Are you here to arrest me and take me in for after that little stunt I pulled with the children?" And Azula goes on saying, "Please, Zuzu, do you really think that you can take me on all by yourself? You'll just lose again." And Zuko responds with this, "To be honest, Azula, after that little stunt you pulled with the kidnapping of the children, as the Fire Lord, I should have you arrested and locked up for that crime. You and your comrades should all be arrested and locked up." And Azula says, "Well, why haven't you done that already? And why are you here?" And then Zuko says, "Mom really misses you. Mom really wants to see you. And like I said when we went to go and find our mom, and no matter how much our relationship is messed up, you'll always be my sister. Mom wants you back in her life." And then Azula paused, and Zuko says, "I think I saw you at the bushes in the garden today, or one of your friends, spying on us." And Azula lifted up her head and says, "Huh?" very silently for a few seconds and said this, "Is that all you came here to say?" And then Zuko replied with this, "I saw Mom crying because she missed you. She was in your room and she picked up that white comb with a rose on it. That comb was a present from our mom. Don't you remember that? She was in your room crying. Azula, she really misses you. Please, Azula, please come back. Please make Mom's life whole again. Please come back and I can help you. Please come and get to know Mom's family. Norin is a very nice guy. He's the kind of father that you need in your life. And our sister Key is a ball full of energy, and she's the most sweetest little thing ever. And Key can also firebend. Please, Azula, please come back. Forget about this plan of trying to make me ruthless. Come back and be a family again. Let us be whole again. Ozai is gone. It can be you, me, Mom, Norin, Uncle Iron, and Key as one big happy family. And we could try and fix your relationship with Mai and Ty Lee. Please, Azula, please, let me help you. I can even look over your crime of kidnapping the children. Please, Azula, I'm giving you this chance. Please don't make Mom sad again. Maybe talking to Mom will help you. So come on, what do you say? And then after that, there was a long pause, and then Azula responds with, "Sorry, Zuzu, but I have some very big plans in the making. It is my destiny to make you a ruthless Fire Lord." And then smoke surrounded Azula, and she disappeared into the smoke. Zuko tried to stop her from leaving, but Azula disappeared into the night. And then after that, Zuko went back to his quarters, and Azula was heading back towards her hideout. She was at her door hideout, and before she went in, she took off her mask, and she had tears in her eyes. She walked in, and her comrades greeted her back, and one of them says, "Hey, what's wrong, Azula? Are you crying?" And Azula responds, "No, I wasn't crying. I just have something in my eye." And then Azula says, "We have other things to talk about and plan." And then it comes to the next morning, after breakfast, when Norin, Key, Uncle Iron, Urza and Zuko is in the garden again, or they're about to go somewhere or something like that. And then Suki and Ty Lee comes up to Zuko and asks them for a private conversation about what happened last night, about Azula. And just to let you guys know, Zuko has kept this secret from Urza of what he was doing last night, so she doesn't know what's going on. The private conversation is between Zuko, Suki, and Ty Lee. Suki asks Zuko what happened last night, and Ty Lee says, "Are you alright?" and wanted to know what happened with Azula. And Zuko told Suki and Ty Lee everything, what transpired between him and Azula last night. And then Ty Lee says, "Azula cannot be reasoned with. You should know this by now, Zuko." But Zuko tells Ty Lee that there is hope for Azula. "I know there is, or at least I think so." And then Ty Lee says, "Have you told Mai about this?" And Zuko says, "Why should Mai know about this?" And then Ty Lee says, "Zuko, you said that you would overlook Azula's crime of kidnapping the children. Mai's father is in prison because of his role of trying to take you down and put Ozai back on the throne, and is an accomplice to Azula kidnapping the children. How do you think she's going to feel when she hears about this?" And then Zuko says, "Ty Lee, you don't understand. Azula needs help. And if I was to arrest Azula and lock her up, it would make my mother very upset. And I don't want that. I'm going to try again to convince Azula to come back. And I want you to help me." And then Ty Lee says, "Why me?" "Because you know her. I want you to help me convince her to come back. I want you to fix the bonds that were broken between you, Mai, and Azula. And even if you was to object to this, I'm telling you, no, I'm ordering you as the Fire Lord to help me bring Azula back. I want you to try and patch things up with Azula, and hopefully, maybe, that might be one of the steps of trying to get her back. And as Fire Lord, you cannot refuse this request." And then Ty Lee pauses for a second, and then she says, "Very well, Fire Lord." And then Zuko goes on saying, "Next time we find Azula, I want you to come with me. And also, please keep this from Mai for a bit, until we can sort all of this out. Because, like you said, I don't think she's going to be too pleased with my decision to give her a second chance." And Ty Lee says, "Very well." And then Zuko turns around and goes back to his family. Later that day, Zuko decides to take his family out to the market alongside his escorts, Suki and Ty Lee. And then we're walking about, looking at things, spending time with each other, and all about having a good time, looking at things, buying things. And then Urza spots a shopping stall that sells combs. She walks over and is reminded of the day she brought that comb for Azula. And then Urza decides to go and buy Key a comb too. And while everybody's distracted and looking at other things, Key runs into the crowd. Zuko spots her and says, "Don't go too far, Key." And then she disappears into the crowd. And Zuko gives chase, trying to keep up with her and tell her to come back. And then Zuko lost track of her. And Zuko kept on calling, "Key, where are you? Key, where are you?" And then, in the corner of his eye, Zuko spots an hooded figure with Key in his arms, with her mouth covered. And then the hooded figure runs off with Key, but Zuko gives chase, alongside with Ty Lee and Suki, and they're running and trying to catch this person in the alleyways, the market. It was all one big chase. And while trying to catch this assailant, who and why would want to kidnap Key? And then the assailant, with Key in his arms, runs down an alleyway but it's a dead end, and the assailant is trapped, and Zuko, Suki, and Ty Lee traps the assailant, and Zuko demands that the assailant let go of Ki. The assailant turns around, but they can't see his face. The assailant's face is covered up by a mask and cloak, and then the assailant drops some smoke bombs, and Suki, Ty Lee, and Zuko is caught off guard and coughing, and the assailant also throws fireworks at them to distract them, and then when the smoke clears, the assailant is on top of the building and disappears. Zuko saw the assailant on top of the building before he disappeared, and Zuko wonders how the hell he got up there. And then Zuko tells Suki and Ty Lee to go and find the assailant, and Zuko follows. And while they're trying to find the assailant, Zuko ponders how the assailant managed to get on top of that building, and after an hour trying to find Ki and the assailant, Zuko goes back to Urza and Norin, and Zuko apologizes to Urza and Norin, saying, "I'm sorry, but someone has kidnapped Ki. We lost them, but I've ordered everybody in the past to go and find her." Urza and Norin embraces each other, and Urza says, "Who could have done this and why?" And Zuko says, "I'm not sure, but I'll get to the bottom of this." Zuko leaves the room and heads to the delivery room. He goes into the delivery room and he writes a letter to Hang and his friends, and he writes to them to come to the palace at once, and he also writes to them to get to the palace as fast as they can, that there's an emergency and he needs their help. Zuko sends the bird right away, and then we cut to Hang, Sokka and Katara eating their supper, having a good time, laughing and all that stuff, and then Hang hears a tapping noise from the window, and he sees that it's the messenger bird that Zuko sent. Hang reads the note, and Hang tells the others that they need to go to the Fire Nation right away. They hop on Happa, and Hang, Katara, and Sokka heads towards the Fire Nation. And I'm just going to say it, I have absolutely no idea how long it would take to get to the Fire Nation from the Water Nation. I'll just say all the time, Hang, Katara, and Sokka get to the Fire Nation. They are both greeted by Suki and Ty Lee, and Suki says, "Zuko is waiting for you inside, go to him very quickly." And so they did. Aang and the gang meets up with Zuko, and they all go to a room. Suki, Ty Lee, Katara, Sokka, Aang and Zuko sits down at a table, and Sokka says, "Okay Zuko, what's this big emergency that you've got to tell us? What's so important that you couldn't tell us in the letter?" And Zuko says, "Ki has been kidnapped, and I called you guys here to help me." And Katara says, "Do you have any idea who it could be?" And Hang says, "Or maybe it could have been one of Ozai's followers. Maybe the Ozai Society?" And Ty Lee says, "No, all of Ozai's followers and the Ozai Society are all locked up, so it can't be one of them." And then we cut to the door, and on the other side of the door is where we see Urza listening in to what the gang is saying. And Sokka says, "Who's this Ozai Society?" And Zuko explained to Sokka and Katara what happened on what occurred in Smoke and Shadow, while Urza was listening in. And after 20 minutes of talking, Urza listens to the whole story, and Urza also learns that Azula is one of the Kurakage. And Zuko also carries on, saying what transpired when Ki got kidnapped. And Zuko also tells everybody that he went to go and find Azula and tried to convince her to come back and be a family again for their mother's sake. And so, with everybody up to date, Sokka says, "You know what? I bet Azula or one of her goons was the ones responsible for kidnapping Ki." And Hang steps in and says, "We don't 100% know if it really was Azula." And Sokka says, "Come on, Hang, who else could it be? It's obvious that she wants the throne for herself and she's taking Ki as an hostage." And Hang says, "We don't have any evidence that it was her." And Zuko says, "It was kind of odd that the assailant who kidnapped Ki managed to get onto the roof in no time. Maybe there was another secret passage somewhere." And Ty Lee says, "Well, you heard it yourself. Like Zuko says, Azula said that she has big plans in the works. So maybe this is that plan, to kidnap Ki." So basically, everybody has an anonymous vote that it might have been Azula. And Hang says, "But Zuko, didn't you say that the assailant didn't have a Kurakage mask on? And also, didn't Azula tell you that she doesn't want the throne anymore?" And Sokka says, "Come on, Hang, you really can't believe everything that Azula says. Azula is most likely lying to throw us off our guard." And then Ty Lee says, "Zuko, do you want me to tell Mai about this? Maybe she can help us." And Zuko says, "No, I don't want to get her involved. Things are already complicated as it is." And Katara says, "Anyways, what are we going to do about Azula? She has Ki as a hostage, and she's very dangerous." So at this point, everybody in the room unanimously believed that Azula was the one who kidnapped Ki. Suki, Ty Lee, Sokka, and Katara believes Azula was the one who kidnapped Ki. Hang doesn't think so, and Zuko doesn't know what to believe. Even though Zuko is certain that it may be Azula, it still leaves Zuko in a complicated, awkward spot, because at this point, Zuko knows that if it is Azula, he'll have no choice but to take her down and send her to prison. But Hang isn't so sure. And then a bird flies into the room and lands on the table, and Zuko notices that there's a note on the bird. He takes the note and he starts reading it, and it says, "If you want to see the child again, bring Ozai and the now Fire Lord Zuko. We will exchange the child for those two. Our meeting point is at the Black Cliff in 2 days' time, and if our demands aren't met, we will do away with the child, and we will attack the Fire Nation. The exchange is at midnight. Everybody hears this, and Ty Lee says, it must be Azula, and Sokka says, she must be trying to get rid of you and put Ozai back on the throne. Zuko, who else could it be? And Zuko says, it can't be her. She told me that she gave up on being Fire Lord. She told me herself when me and Hang was fighting her during the kidnapping of the kids. And Sokka says, she was probably lying, just to throw you off. Zuko, who else could it be? And Hang says, we don't know for sure if it is Azula. And Hang says, I think we should go back and look for clues, and maybe find Azula, and get to the bottom of this. And Urza, after listening to everything, walks in, and Zuko is shocked, as he knows that Urza heard everything. And Urza says, Zuko, this is all my fault. If I had been here for you and Azula, none of this would have happened. And Urza goes on saying, please Zuko, let me come with you. Maybe I can talk some sense into Azula. I want to try reasoning with her. Please, just let me talk to her. And it's at this point, and so Zuko decides to let Urza come with him in 2 days' time to go and, as we assume, we think is Azula, who is the one who kidnapped Ki. And then after that, we cut to Mai and Tom Tom at the palace gate, and guards are denying her access into the palace. And Mai demands why she's not allowed to go inside the palace. And one of the guards said, sorry, strict instructions from Fire Lord Zuko. Nobody gets in or out, regardless who you may be. It's Fire Lord Zuko's strict orders. And Tom Tom turns to Mai and says, but I want to go and play with Ki. And Mai says to him, sorry kid, you'll have to wait for another day to spend time with Ki. Mai turns around and walks back home. And then we cut to a tea shop. And Mai is sitting down and she's trying to figure out what the hell's going on inside the palace. And even though she broke up with Zuko, she still wants to know what's going on inside the palace. And she's wondering where Ty Lee is. And for the sake of Tom Tom, because Ki and Tom Tom has made a friendship from their time in Smoke and Shadow. And, well, come on, let's face it. Mai is obviously worried about Zuko, but she won't admit it. And she convinces herself that she's doing it for those two reasons alone, for Ty Lee and Tom Tom. And so, Mai decides to sneak inside the palace at night by using the secret passages that leads from the outside of the palace to inside the palace, just like in Smoke and Shadow. And so, at night, Mai goes to a hidden secret entrance. She pushes a stone that opens a door. She goes in, and after about 10 to 15 minutes, she comes out from the other end. And she's in the palace, and Mai starts wandering around, and she's ducking and dodging and hiding to hide from the palace guards. And then she runs into Ty Lee. Ty Lee is shocked, and Ty Lee says, Mai, what are you doing inside the palace? Nobody is allowed in or out. And Mai says, why, what's going on? And Ty Lee says, oh, nothing. And Mai says, please Ty Lee, please tell me what's been going on. I haven't seen you for a few days. And Tom Tom wants to see Ki. And Ty Lee says, are you sure it's not for Zuko? And Mai says, no. And then Ty Lee pulls Mai into an empty room. And Ty Lee says, listen, I'm not supposed to tell you anything due to Zuko ordering me not to tell you. And Ty Lee goes on to say what happened to Ki's kidnapping to now. And then, after hearing the story from Ty Lee, Mai decides to confront Zuko in the morning about this. Ty Lee lets Mai sleep in an unoccupied room until the morning. The morning comes, Ty Lee goes to get Mai, and Ty Lee escorts Mai to Zuko. They find him in his quarters. Zuko is shocked, and Zuko asks Ty Lee why Mai is in the palace. And Mai says, I got into the secret passageways from outside of the palace. Mai comes out and says, Zuko, what are you going to do about Azula? She's very dangerous, and she needs to be locked away. And Zuko says, Mai, that's not your call to make. I'm Fire Lord, and I say what's what. And Mai says, she's the one responsible for kidnapping the children. My father's locked up, and you're just going to let her walk free? And you're just going to say nothing to me about this? And Zuko says, you hid the fact that your father was also behind the kidnappings. And also, it's none of your business with Azula. In fact, I'm going to give Azula one chance. My mother Urza wants to be with both of her daughters. It's obvious that Azula needs help. And Mai says she kidnapped Ki twice, and she wants Ozai and you to meet up in a hostage exchange. It's obvious that she wants Ozai back on the throne. And I also know about the meeting place. At the very least, let me come with you. And Zuko says, why would you want to do that for? And Mai says, I'm doing this for Tom Tom because Ki is Tom Tom's friend. And Zuko says, fine, you can come along. And my mother is also going to be coming with us. She's going to try and talk Azula out of this. Mai is in silence. The meeting is tonight, so get yourself ready. And so, everybody goes to the meeting point. Hang, Katara, Sokka, Ty Lee, Mai, Suki are all in hiding at the meeting point, and the only ones who are out in the open are Zuko and Ozai and Urza. It comes up midnight, and a dark shadowy figure who is hiding in the shadows, says, "Why is there a woman with you? It was only supposed to be you and Ozai." And nobody can actually see who it is in the shadows. And then Urza speaks up and says to the person who is in the shadows, "Azula, please, let Ki go and come back to us. I know I wasn't a very good mother, and I left you all alone. I should have been there for you more. I wasn't a good mother. I shouldn't have run away and changed my face to start a new life. I realize that you and Zuko are my family. Please forgive me for leaving you." And then Urza holds out her hand to the person who is in the shadows and says, "Azula, please come back to us. Let us be a family again." And then the shadowy figure comes out of the shadows, and it's not one of the Kurakage, and it's not Azula. It was a tall, buff man with his face covered up. And the man says, "What? Princess Azula is alive? In that case, we want her too." The man whistles, and a whole bunch of people came out, some with masks, some without masks, all coming out in different directions, surrounding Ozai, Zuko, and Urza. I would say, give or take, there was about like 20 of these people surrounding Urza, Ozai, and Zuko. And then one of the people who was surrounding Zuko started using some earthbending and made a wall around them. And Zuko says, "Who the hell are you people? What do you want with me and Ozai? And also, I demand you give back Ki. Give me back my sister. Where is she?" And the man in the mask said, "Okay, I'll show you your sister." He clicks his fingers, and one of his cronies comes out with Ki tied up and gagged. "There you go, there's your sister. Take a good long look, because this is the last you're going to see her." And the man in the mask said, "We are people who have been wronged by the Fire Nation. All of us here and more have lost loved ones, our homes, our friends, our people have all been lost thanks to the Fire Nation, to your father Ozai, and we want revenge on the whole royal family, Ozai and you. But now that we know that Princess Azula is alive, we're going to go after her too. And as a bonus, we have your mother and your sister. All of you are going to die by our hands and avenge the people that we have lost, all thanks to you and your father." And Zuko says, "The 100-year war is ended, and Ozai will forever be imprisoned. And I also vowed peace among the nations. I am nothing like my father, and also my sister Ki and my mother has nothing to do with this. They are completely innocent. My mother divorced my father and has remarried, and Ki isn't the daughter of Ozai. They are innocent. Please let them go." And the man in the mask said, "All of us here vowed to destroy everything that you love and cherish. We will end your line here. We want to see you suffer for what we have suffered because of you and the Fire Nation." And then suddenly, Hang and the others popped out, and Hang announced himself as the Avatar, and he demanded that they release Ki and let Zuko and Ursa go. And then all the people who wanted revenge on the royal family surrounds the gang and begins to fight with them. The man in the mask takes Ki as an hostage and runs off. Now, when it comes to the fight between the 20-something people, you have earthbenders, people with weapons, and so on and so forth. Use your imagination. And so, we have a fight between 20 to 25 people fighting Hang, Katara, Sokka, Mai, Ty Lee, and Suki. Zuko breaks free, and he sees the man in the mask with Ki, and he's running off. And then Zuko turns back to his friends, who is struggling against these 20 people. And Zuko has a tough choice. Should he leave his friends behind and go after Ki, or should he leave Ki behind and go help his friends? Hang shouts to Zuko and says, "It's okay, Zuko, we've got this." And Hang is saying this even though he's heavily outmatched. And again, Zuko is still having trouble knowing what to do. And then, out of nowhere, smoke bombs went off everywhere in the area. And the smoke was everywhere. Everybody stopped fighting as the smoke gathered around them, and everywhere, everybody was confused. And then a few of the assailants who was attacking Hang and the others got jumped and knocked out. And by whom, you may ask? It was the Kurakage. But it wasn't the Kurakage. It was Azula and her friends, dressed up as the Kurakage. The smoke clears, and Ty Lee says, "Oh no, it's Azula and her friends." Urza overhears this as she looks on, and Mai says, "We have too much on our plate, and now we have to deal with these guys?" And then one of the Kurakage, which is Azula, fires her lightning bending towards Ty Lee. Ty Lee closes her eyes, thinking Azula was aiming at her, and then when Ty Lee opened her eyes, she noticed she was unarmed. Ty Lee looked behind her, and she noticed one of the assailants was on the floor and knocked out. Ty Lee realized that Azula was aiming at him, not her. And then Azula and her friends, who's dressed up as the Kurakage, started fighting against the assailants. Oolong and the others was having trouble earlier. The Kurakage started attacking the assailants, and then Hang realizes that they're trying to help them. Hang encourages the others to fight alongside the Kurakage. Ty Lee and Mai were shocked, but they had no choice but to continue fighting. And so we have Suki, Ty Lee, Mai, Sokka, Katara, and Hang, and 8 or 6 of the Kurakage fighting against the assailants. And even though they are outnumbered, and the assailants have earthbending and is well trained, and so we've got waterbenders, firebenders, the Avatar, and the Kisho warriors fighting against these 20 assailants. And then we cut back to a flashback to the night where Zuko confronted Azula on the roof. Azula leaves Zuko, where she heads back to her lair. She takes off her mask, and we can see tears in her eyes. She walks into her hideout, and her followers said, "Hey Azula, what's wrong? You got tears in your eyes." And she said, "It's nothing." And Azula also asked her followers if any one of them was keeping an eye on Zuko, or went anywhere near him today. And they said no, they haven't been anywhere near Zuko. And then Azula said, "Thought so. Guys, get dressed. I think we're going to be having some trouble. So we have to get ourselves ready." And then we cut back to present day. And there's some firebending there, and there's some earthbending there. It's all one glorious battle. And the assailants are losing. And the head assailant, who has been holding Ki hostage, he sees that his men are falling like flies. Frustrated and angry, he flees with Ki. And Zuko follows suit. Azula sees Zuko running after the assailant. Azula says to her fellow Kurakage to keep fighting while she goes after Zuko, and so she follows Zuko. And then Urza follows Azula with the Kurakage mask on. So yeah, we have a kidnapper that has Ki as hostage, and he's running away with her. Zuko is pursuing him. Azula is pursuing Zuko, and Urza is following Azula. Oh, and Azula still has a mask on, just to let you guys know. Anyways, the assailant runs towards the edge of a cliff, and it's a complete dead end. Zuko catches up, and Zuko tells the assailant that it's a dead end. He should give himself up, let Ki go, and he will spare his life. And at the bottom of this cliff is a running stream. And then the assailant dangles Ki off the cliff, and the assailant says, "Take one more step and I will throw it off the cliff." And Zuko says, "Your followers are most likely been defeated by my friends. You have lost." And the assailant laughs, saying, "Those were just a handful of my men. I have more followers who have dedicated themselves to wanting to destroy you." And then the assailant throws Ki off the cliff. Zuko is in shock and tries to get to Ki, and then the assailant tackles Zuko, catching him off guard, and starts to fight him. And then out of the blue, Azula drops down the cliff, and she accelerates her speed by using her firebending. On her feet, Zuko looks down the cliff, and as he's doing that, the assailant runs away into the darkness. And Azula finally catches up to Ki. Azula catches Ki, and Azula accelerates her feet down to slow herself down from falling. And with Ki in her one arm, Azula grabs onto the ledge, and then Azula says, "Whew, that was close." Ki looks up to the Kurakage mask, and Ki starts to fight back, throwing her arms around and throwing punches, and she demanded the Kurakage to let her go. And during that scuffle, Ki knocks off Azula's mask, and it falls down to the cliff. And Azula says, "Hey kid, do you really want to fall? Then stop squirming." Ki looks down, and she can see that she's way up, and this scares Ki. Ki stops what she's doing, and she holds on to Azula with her eyes closed. Urza comes along, and she looks down the cliff, and she can see Azula holding Ki. And then Zuko shouts to Azula, "Stay right there, we'll be down to help you." And Azula says, "I don't need no help." Azula uses her firebending to accelerate up while holding Ki. She gets herself up the cliff using her firebending. She gets to the top and lets go of Ki, and Ki runs towards Urza. And Ki and Urza embrace each other, and Urza is happy to see Ki. And then Mai and Sokka appears on the scene. They see everyone, including Azula, and then Sokka and Mai go on the defense, and Zuko tells them to stand down. Azula isn't our enemy, and she's the one who saved Ki. And Mai begrudgingly stands down. And then Azula quickly walks away. Urza tries to stop Azula, but she throws a smoke bomb before Urza could say anything else. And then Azula and her friends disappear. And with all the assailants tied up and taken down, everyone gathers, and Sokka says, "Oh well, that takes care of that then." And Zuko says, "No, there's still more out there." The person who stole Ki said he has more people on his side. They are after the royal family because of the crimes of what my family did to people during the 100-Year War. And Katara says, "That's totally unfair. You've changed, Zuko, and Ozai was locked up." And then Zuko says, "Let's just get back to the palace and we can sort out our next move." And this is where I'm going to leave it for now, guys. This was just a general idea of what they could do with Azula's redemption arc. If you guys think of missing something, or if there's something that you want to add, or if you guys think this is a good idea or a bad idea, please let me know. And I'm going to end with this. If we can get a lot of attention for Avatar The Last Airbender, hopefully they'll be able to make that 4th season. And so, with all said and done, I'll see you guys next time. Peace out. Thank you guys for watching, and if there's a series you want me to check out and review and give my thoughts on it, or if there's a top 10 list you want me to do, or any reactions, or responses, or rants on anything geeky, just leave links and comments in the comment sections below, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. And if you guys want to follow me on my social medias, I'm on minds.com, Twitch, Dailymotion, and Hatron, Reddit, BitChute, aka the new YouTube, DeviantArt, Discord, VidMe, Gab, Twitter, Tumblr, Patreon, GoFundMe, PayPal, and my other social medias are down there in the description box below, so if you want to go and check them out, please do. And don't forget to subscribe and share this video. And please go and check out my new skeptic channel, Gypsy Freak. It's also down there in the description box below. Peace out.